Okay, guys, I got a serious update for you. You heard me talk about SEMA and the product roadmap radar. I just caught up with Matt, who's the founder there, and he gave me the latest on what they are building. And my mind is blown. The team at SEMA are taking things to the next level. Built around the core of the product roadmap radar, i.e. code and Jira analysis, they are building agent orchestration across the product lifecycle. Picture this. You hook up this system same as before, i.e. integrate your repository and your backlog, Jira today. From that point, SEMA's agent analyzes the codebase and makes suggestions as to what needs to be done next and what could improve, optimize the product. Then, if those tasks are routine, the agent assigns the task to a coding agent, think something like Devin, to complete the minutia, while assigning the human-in-the-loop task to engineers themselves. What you end up with is engineers focusing on building core competency features while AI handles all the rest. If you're not salivating right now, I don't think you fully understand what this means. But here's what I would suggest. Right now, their product is in a closed beta, and SEMA is looking for folks to sign up for their Product Intelligence Advisory Board. This gives you the opportunity to use the product, give feedback, help shape the future of what's built. Oh, and not to mention additional free usage of the product potentially through the end of 2026. So, if that fits your workflow and toolset, you need to reach out today. Go to codestory.co/nextlevel, NEXTLEVEL, and reach out to Matt at SEMA to learn more and join the Product Intelligence Advisory Board. Again, that's codestory.co/nextlevel. This episode is sponsored by Postman. Postman is the world's leading API platform, trusted by 98% of the Fortune 500 and over 40 million developers. Tap into APIs from 18,000 plus companies to power agents that make smarter decisions. Learn more at postman.com/podcast/codestory. This message is sponsored by Melee Search. Today, search isn't just a feature, it's a cornerstone. And Melee Search gives your users the experience they need with lightning-fast performance, full-text search, AI usage, and multimodal capabilities. Melee Search delivers relevant results in less than the blink of an eye. Use the promo code CODESTORY at checkout to get 2 months free at meleesearch.com. That's MEILI search.com.
Privacy is extremely important for us in this process. So all of the computation needs to happen client-side. We are not going to process any of this information on a server because, again, we didn't want to be in a situation in which we had access to PII or sensitive information about the user. Then the questions become, okay, if we are going to do all of this heavy computation on the client side, it's going to take a lot of time to do that computation, especially on low-end phones. The 15-minute thing that I mentioned was actually on the latest, greatest phone on the market at the time. But for a low-end phone, I don't think we even bothered to benchmark how long it was taking. I'm Madhavan Malonan. I go by Maddy, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Reclaim Protocol.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do next.
Took many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their back.
A company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve
I was
more.
proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was a
Yes,
pain.
we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really want
It's
it.
not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story.
I'm your host, Noah Labhart, and today how Maddy Malonan is enabling you to access and verify user data, and do so from anywhere on the internet. This episode is brought to you by Paddle. Don't settle for less when you can have more, MOR, with Paddle, your merchant of record. Eliminate the headaches of payments, grow your revenue everywhere, and focus on what you do best, building your product. Get more revenue with less hassle at paddle.com. This episode is brought to you by Propel. People take authentication for granted, but it's more than how customers log into your product. It's how you manage your relationship with your users. The easiest way to make authentication your advantage is to use Propel Auth. Propel Auth is more than just functional. It's powerful. With tools like Managed UIs, Enterprise SSO, robust user management features, and actionable insights, Propel Auth adapts as your product grows. And the best part? When auth is effortless, your team can focus on scaling, not troubleshooting. That means more releases, happier customers, and more growth for your business. Save dev time, win over your customers, and propel your business forward with Propel Auth. Check them out at propelauth.com. That's PROPELAUTH.com. Maddy Malonan has always been in and around technology and fell in love with building things early on. He got a video game console when he was young and found it a little boring. But when his dad got a computer and he played Age of Empires, he got excited about all the possibilities, trying to tinker with building things that mimicked these computer games. Even these days, he writes a lot of code, building side projects with Claude Code. When he's not coding, he's playing sports, primarily tennis. Maddy and his team identified that verification of age, credentials, employment history, etc. was a big problem. So much so that it was difficult to do so in a tamper-proof, zero-knowledge proof manner. They set out to create a solution and protocol to solve this problem. This is the creation story of Reclaim Protocol.
Reclaim Protocol is essentially a way to verify information about a user in a way that is resistant to AI fraud and is privacy preserving. There are three verticals in which we do most of our business. First is student verification. Are you a student or not? This is largely in the context of student discounts. If there are companies that want to do student discounts, they do student verification. The second vertical is employment verification. Now, where do you work? And this is being used by companies to give out loans and also in the hiring. And the third is loyalty verification, which is where do you spend money? How much money do you spend? And this is being used by a lot of retail companies to give personalized deals and discounts to customers. The question that you might have is, hey, how is this different? There are a lot of these verification companies that exist, right? What's different about Reclaim? So let's say, Noah, if I have to verify, if you claim that you study at Stanford, how can I be sure over the internet? So one way that you could convince me is by saying, hey, look, I have my student ID. Here's a photograph. And you send that across to me. And this is what most of the verification companies today do. Maybe it's not a person on the other side, but it might be a software that is trying to do this comparison. And essentially what they're looking for is visual cues. Right? So they're looking for a visual cue of, hey, does this look like a Stanford ID? And they're looking for visual cues of, has this data been morphed? Has this image been photoshopped in some form? What is obvious right now is all of these companies that are doing verification using this visual cue verification mechanism are being bombarded with AI-generated documents. That's where Reclaim Protocol comes in. We say, hey, truth should not be grounded in visual authenticity. Rather, it should be grounded in cryptographic and mathematical proofs. So what we say is, hey, if you're a student at Stanford, you should have access to your Stanford student portal. Why don't you log in over there? And once you log in, you should see the text that says, yeah, Noah is a registered student at Stanford, whatever shows up on that user profile. And we generate a cryptographic proof that all of this happened, that you open stanford.edu, you logged in over there, and on the page after login, you see the text that says you are a student at Stanford. All of this could be packaged in proof called a zero knowledge proof. And we are very lucky that we are at a time where the verification as a problem became super big because of AI. And right about the same time, the technology called zero knowledge proofs also matured, which allowed us to solve this problem in the way that I just mentioned. That is, now, can I ask you to log into a website and prove to me what information you're seeing on your screen in a way that is tamper resistant and still privacy preserving?
Let's dive into the MVP of Reclaim Protocol. So that first version you created, how long did it take to build and what sort of tools were you using to bring it to life?
It's really a question of what you call an MVP over here, really. So from the point that we got the idea to, having something that first works, maybe that took us 6 months. And anybody who's listening to this podcast should be like, hey, 6 months is a really long time to put out an MVP. And the reason for that is largely because we were not only building the product, but we were also having to do a lot of this research ourselves. These cryptographic primitives that I'm talking about for this verification process did not exist until 1 or 2 years back. So we were at the bleeding edge of the research. We were pushing the edge ourselves and parallelly also building the product. So yeah, it took us 6 months to get the first version. But the form factor of that first version was really shitty in the sense that it used to take 15 minutes to generate a proof that you are a student at a certain university. And that is unacceptable. You are not going to wait for 15 minutes for something to complete when you're applying for a student discount or something like that. And that was unacceptable. But it took like another 1 year of engineering and research work for us to get to a point at which all of that could happen in under 1 or 2 seconds. And that is, I would say, a more realistic MVP in which it was solving a real problem for a real customer. And that entire process would have taken us, let's say, almost 18 months from having the idea to having a customer really use the product.
I want to stay on that first MVP. You had to make decisions and trade-offs around that version, that led you to get something out the door, but maybe it wasn't, the form factor wasn't the way that you wanted it to be. It wasn't the end state. It took too long. Tell me about the decisions and trade-offs you had to make to get that out the door. And that could be around, accepting that speed of process, or it could be around, maybe that's technical debt. It could be about feature limitation. Tell me about some of those and how you coped with those decisions.
This cryptographic process that generates this verification it's A, computationally heavy, and B, it is usually operating on very sensitive information about the user, right? Privacy is extremely important. So one of the early decisions that we took is, hey, privacy is extremely important for us in this process. So all of the computation needs to happen client-side. We are not going to process any of this information on a server because, again, we didn't want to be in a situation in which we had access to PII or sensitive information about the user. So that was like one of the early decisions that we took from a principles level. Then the questions become, okay, if we are going to do all of this heavy computation on the client side, it is going to mean it's going to take a lot of time to do that computation, especially on low-end phones. The 15-minute thing that I mentioned was actually on the latest, greatest phone on the market at the time. But for a low-end phone, I don't think we even bothered to benchmark how long it was taking. So in the early days, we were like, hey, we need access to better computation. So we are going to be launching our own app just to get the ball rolling. Most of our customers right now are using our SDK. Nobody uses our app anymore. In fact, we've discontinued our app. So in the early days, we were like, hey, we will build our own app so that we have access to the low-level optimizations at the hardware level that we can do to like speed things up for our customers. So we went down the B2C route initially instead of a B2B route in which we were selling our SDK directly to companies. And in hindsight, that was not a super optimal decision, which we had to eventually roll back. But from getting the product into the hands of people and getting them to experience it, it was very important that we shipped out our own app in which you could just play around and test these verifications before it would be integrated into real products out in the wild.
Okay, guys, I got a serious update for you. You heard me talk about SEMA and the product roadmap radar. I just caught up with Matt, who's the founder there, and he gave me the latest on what they are building. And my mind is blown. The team at SEMA are taking things to the next level. Built around the core of the product roadmap radar, i.e. code and Jira analysis, they are building agent orchestration across the product lifecycle. Picture this. You hook up this system same as before, i.e. integrate your repository and your backlog, Jira today. From that point, SEMA's agent analyzes the codebase and makes suggestions as to what needs to be done next and what could improve, optimize the product. Then, if those tasks are routine, the agent assigns the task to a coding agent, think something like Devin, to complete the minutia, while assigning the human-in-the-loop task to engineers themselves. What you end up with is engineers focusing on building core competency features while AI handles all the rest. If you're not salivating right now, I don't think you fully understand what this means. But here's what I would suggest. Right now, their product is in a closed beta, and SEMA is looking for folks to sign up for their Product Intelligence Advisory Board. This gives you the opportunity to use the product, give feedback, help shape the future of what's built. Oh, and not to mention additional free usage of the product potentially through the end of 2026. So, if that fits your workflow and toolset, you need to reach out today. Go to codestory.co/nextlevel, NEXTLEVEL, and reach out to Matt at SEMA to learn more and join the Product Intelligence Advisory Board. Again, that's codestory.co/nextlevel. This episode is brought to you by Paddle. As a startup, you face unique challenges to stay competitive. You and your team need to stay focused on your product, not your payments. You need to do more, MOR, and DIY less. With Paddle. Paddle is your merchant of record, becoming the seller of record for your SaaS transactions, enabling your team to focus on what's important, your product. Paddle handles all payment management across multiple gateways and methods, taking ownership of tax liability while remaining compliant with regulations across all markets. The platform handles all aspects of SaaS billing models, upgrades, add-on, trials, and more. Let's look at the results. MOR revenue optimization is built into Paddle and accounts for up to 16% higher conversion rates, reduced payment failures, localized pricing, and churn prevention, recovering 40% of cancellations. Their developer-friendly tools are API first with comprehensive documentation, removing the burden from your engineers. With Paddle as your merchant of record, you'll generate more revenue, find and keep more customers, grow faster, and stay compliant everywhere. So what are you waiting for? Get more revenue with less hassle at paddle.com. This episode is sponsored by Fullscale. Let me guess, your team's shipping sprint velocity looks good, but you're still asking yourself, is anyone actually thinking about the why? Matt Watson's been there. He's the founder behind Vin Solutions and Stackify, and now runs Fullscale with a 300-plus person dev team. And after 2 decades in the trenches, he's seen the same pattern over and over. Smart developers stuck in systems that reward ticket-taking instead of real thinking. That's why he wrote Product Driven, a playbook for tech leaders who are done babysitting developers and ready to build teams that own the outcome. If you're tired of translating every feature, doing all the thinking, or wondering why your smart team is still stuck, this is the fix. Go to productdriven.com/codestory to grab the book and get the bonus toolkit to help your team shift from output to outcomes, like 12 bold ways to get your retros out of robot mode. Again, that's productdriven.com/codestory. I'm curious about how you progressed and matured it. And, there were some iterations post that first MVP where you matured the product. I think to wrap the question in a box a little bit, what I'm looking for is, how do you build your roadmap? How do you go about deciding that, okay, this is the next most important thing to build or to address with Reclaim Protocol?
When we were building out the app that I was mentioning, we were building in silos. We were just thinking about, this is how the product is going to be used. People are going to be downloading our app to use verifications everywhere on the internet and so on. But the moment we started selling this to potential customers, we very quickly realized that nobody wanted an app, right? Everybody was like, hey, it's already hard for me to get people to download my app. Now I need to convince them to also download your app. That's not going to happen. So the most important product decisions that we made almost always came from our customers. The thing that we ruthlessly prioritized is, hey, okay, fine, we have this technology, it works. We need to put it in a form factor that will be most appealing to our enterprises, customers, and we ruthlessly prioritize everything on that, on our roadmap. So talking to customers, I know it's like very cliched, but I think talking to customers really improved our roadmap and our priorities significantly. Something that we were probably not paying attention, even though we had heard all of this from YC. So we went to YC in 2021 and we've heard all of this, that we have to talk to our customers, we have to ship early and run these iterations. But in spite of all of that, I think we did not appreciate how important it is to go talk to customers and use that customer feedback as our roadmap.
So to build something like Reclaim Protocol, you have to have the right team. You have to have the right team in place. How did you build your team? And what did you look for in those people to indicate that they were the winning horses to join you?
We've been very lucky that we have a stellar team at Reclaim Protocol at this point. And we are a remote company. So one of the things that was very important for us is that anybody who's joining our team should be self-motivated. So we were always looking for signals in the work that they've done in the past and the kind of projects that they've done, which would suggest that this person is self-motivated. And it so turns out that self-motivation is not only important in a remote setting, it's also very important in an in-person setting as well. A self-motivated person is somebody who would meaningfully add a lot of more value to the team. And the cheat code that we applied was whenever we found somebody who really met our bars for self-motivation, we usually go and hire all of their friends because they tend to be self-motivated in groups. So yeah, we have like multiple people that we've hired through those channels, I would say. So yeah, looking for highly motivated, self-motivated people and hiring with their friends. I think that's the TLDR of my hiring strategy.
This episode is brought to you by Propel-Off. People take authentication for granted, but it's more than how customers log into your product. It's how you manage your relationship with your users. The easiest way to make authentication your advantage is to use Propel-Off. Propel-Off is more than just functional. It's powerful. With tools like Managed UIs, Enterprise SSO, robust user management features, and actionable insights, Propel-Off adapts as your product grows. And the best part? When Off is effortless, your team can focus on scaling, not troubleshooting. That means more releases, happier customers, and more growth for your business. Save dev time, win over your customers, and propel your business forward with Propel-Off. Check them out at propelloff.com. That's PROPELAUTH.com. This episode is sponsored by Search. In today's digital landscape, search isn't just a feature, it's a cornerstone, and you need a user experience that drives customer satisfaction. You need Search. Search has lightning-fast performance, returning answers in less than 50 milliseconds. Yeah, you heard that right. Faster than the blink of an eye. The open-source AI search engine is plug-and-play, so you can get up and running in minutes with smart presets, allowing you to start searching through your data with zero configuration. Search utilizes advanced full-text search and AI, ensuring your results are ultra-relevant with semantic depth. It's multimodal, supporting images, videos, and audio, along with being federated, i.e. searching across multiple data sources. And it's developer-friendly. Whether you're building a content-rich website or enterprise application, Search delivers the experience your users expect and deserve. For a limited time, CodeStory users can get 2 months free. Use the promo code CODESTORY, all one word, at checkout. Just go to mailysearch.com and get started today. That's MEILI search.com. So let's flip to scalability, and I'm curious about, where this comes into play. Have there been interesting areas where you've had to fight scale as you've grown?
100%. In fact, I am entering this call firefighting a situation where we had to scale up our servers because of a customer who came on board and they suddenly had a spike and our auto scaling did not scale as fast as we would have hoped it to. Anyway, I think that is something that routinely happens as part of any software business. But the thing that we try to do from a scaling perspective is push more and more computation to the client side. So in that way, we are blessed that we don't have the same kind of soft scaling problems that a typical SaaS company would have. Though we do have these server scaling problems, but the response that we tend to have is, hey, how can we push more and more computation to the client side, especially because the computation that we're doing is extremely sensitive because it operates on private information, private data.
Well, Maddy, as you step out on the balcony and you look across all that you've built with Reclaim Protocol, What are you most proud of?
Oh, I'm extremely proud that the product that we've built came out of research that we did ourselves. We have pushed the boundaries of what is possible using cryptography on client side. So zero knowledge proofs as a category has been around since the 1980s in theory, but really in practice, it has come to life in the last 2-3 years. And I would say Reclaim Protocol is pushing the boundaries of what is possible to do using this new cryptographic primitive that now exists. So I'm very proud of the fact that we have pushed the boundaries of cryptography itself, and at the same time also tried to productize what has probably just been in theory for a long time. So productionizing a lot of theory and pushing the boundaries of cryptographic theory itself is something that this team has done, and I'm extremely proud of. It's probably the proudest work that I've done in my life, and I think a lot of people on the team would say the same.
Okay, let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
A big mistake that I probably touched on a little while earlier is we became a little bit too greedy early on and said, hey, we're going to build a B2C product and launch our own app. We failed to realize that verifications inherently is probably a B2B business. We were carried away by the sexiness of a B2C product and wanting to operate in that market that we neglected what the customers were saying, and just we continued to build that app for a long time before the customer feedback was so loud that we could no longer ignore it. But up until that point, we were like, this customer is wrong. We are right. We should be building this consumer-facing product ourselves. I think not pivoting away from the consumer-facing B2C product into a SDK B2B product was definitely a big mistake that we wasted at least 6 months on, I would say.
Okay, Maddy, this will be fun. Let's move forward. What does the future look like for Reclaim Protocol, the product, the company, and the team?
One thing that I feel for certain is verifications are going to become more and more important in this world filled with AI. So today, most of the verifications are based, as we mentioned, on visual cues. We need to move away from that into cryptographic proofs, mathematical proofs of some information being true. So that's the big opportunity we have, an opportunity that has probably presented itself only in the last 12 months or so because of image gen, and just upgrading the verification rails of the entire internet is an opportunity that lies immediately ahead of us. So we will probably knock off vertical by vertical and be this de facto verification layer for the internet. I think that's where we want to be, I would say, in the next short to mid-term. But I think the end state of this is going to be that as and when AI agents start talking to other AI agents and information is being transmitted between AI agents, more and more information will have to be verified. Because if information is not verified, you could just probably prompt engineer AI agents to give you the right responses. And to put this into perspective, recently Google Cloud launched this standard called AP2. AP2 is a standard for AI agents to pay each other. And one of these steps in that process is when, let's say, your AI agent is talking to United Airlines AI agent, it needs to negotiate. The price that Noah gets will be different from the price that Maddy gets based on certain parameters. Now, Noah's AI agent needs to prove something about Noah for United Airlines to give you a discount for 10% or whatever. And you want it to be all verifiable. You don't want Noah's AI agent to be able to fool United's AI agent into giving a discount and stuff like that. I think as and when more and more AI agents are participating in multiplayer zero-sum games, deals and discounts, I think that is a multiplayer game. So if you get a discount, there's probably somebody else who's not going to get a discount. So in those kind of situations in which AI agents are having to negotiate with other AI agents, verifiability of the information that is being given them is going to be extremely important. And that is the future towards which, Reclaim Protocol is building towards. As and when the AI agents really require this infrastructure, we want to be in a position where we are ready to take on that challenge.
Let's switch to you, Maddy. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
Probably two people come to mind. One is Andy Grove from Intel. Again, of course, I've not met him, but I've read his books. So he comes out as a person who's like very methodical in the kind of decisions he takes. So I do take inspiration from that. That is like, no matter how bad or how good the situation is, always having the certain mental models that you can always fall back to and be methodical about the decisions you take. I think that is something that Andy Grove, through his books, has definitely had a very lasting impression on me. And the other is Patrick Collison from Stripe. And the reason that I look up to him is because, especially in today's day and age where most of the successful founders are extremely pompous, for the lack of a better word. But Patrick, in spite of Stripe's amazing success, maintains a persona in public that is humble, willing to learn, that kind of a thing. And I think I respect that in him a lot. And I've had a chance to listen to him in close quarters at Y Combinator as well. So that is something that I look up to. I think I appreciate people being humble and always being receptive to learning new things. So yeah, Andy Grove and Patrick Collison definitely have a lasting impact on me.
Okay, last question, Maddy. So you're getting on a plane. You're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world. And can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit?
Being open to pivoting. No matter how strongly you feel about your product, you should always be open to just throwing it all in the trash and starting over all over again. I think this is a very fine line between not giving up and not pivoting. I think people don't talk enough about being open to pivoting pretty quickly, actually. But the thing that probably gets told in public is never give up. But there are times at which, given the right feedback from the market, you should give up on a certain product, certain idea, and move on to the next. I think that is probably one thing that I had to learn the hard way, which I would probably pass on.
I appreciate you sharing that advice. I think that's golden. Well, Maddy, thank you for being on the show today, and thank you for telling the creation story of Reclaim Protocol.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This was great fun.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.